So, what is up, everybody? My name is OmegaPro, and today I'm here to tell you why piracy is actually a good thing. I think piracy is actually a net positive, and I'm going to explain why. I think piracy is morally good, I think it's morally correct, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being a goddamn low-down, dirty fucking thief. That's right, I don't give a damn. Steal your shit, emulate your shit, pirate your shit, I don't give a fuck. I think it's all very poggers. And in this video, I'm gonna try to explain a little bit why I think that. So first of all, let me go ahead and explain what I believe to be the only way wherein pirating something is actually not very poggers. Oh, yeah, right, not very poggers. The only time I think that pirating something would be a bad thing is if you are pirating from an indie developer, or if you're pirating a piece of software made by like one dude who's like uploading this on the internet or some shit. And in those situations, I think it's shitty to pirate. That just is what it is, period. But I don't think that's what most people think of when they think of pirating. I think most people think of pirating as, oh shit, a new Netflix show came out. Well, let me sail the 7 seas and cop that real quick. Oh shit, I kind of want to play Pokemon Emerald. What's that? Pokemon Emerald is $300 on eBay? Bet. I can get a Game Boy Advance emulator in 3 minutes and play that shit right now on like anything, on my phone, on my computer, whatever. So I think that's what most people think of when they think of piracy and stealing shit. And so yeah, we're gonna be operating off of that lens for the majority of this video. Again, think the worst thing you can do with pirating is pirating indie shit or low budget stuff or whatever. That is pretty shitty. But let's go ahead and get onto the emulation conversation, because the reason why I even thought of this to begin with was because I saw this tweet actually that said, what is your take on this? Emulation is piracy. So first of all, that is categorically a false statement. The act of emulating something alone is not piracy. That's piracy, or emulation is completely legal, and you can use emulators. That's why emulators exist and why they haven't been taken down yet. What the illegal part is comes from distributing ROMs for free, or even selling them, whatever. Like, that is where the illegal shit gets into. It is perfectly legal for you to dump your own ROMs onto your own computer and then use a emulation software to emulate it. So that's first and foremost. If you didn't know that, well, now you know. But I'm gonna even go a step further. Even if you are using emulation illegally, which I mean, we would never do. But even if you were to do that, I don't think it's a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a good thing, because of the fact that these companies do not give a fuck about preservation of their media, okay? And that goes into like probably the biggest positive for piracy, in my opinion, is that it is pretty much the only foolproof way to preserve media and art and history in general, right? So let's say, for example, you are a big F-Zero fan and you wanted to play F-Zero right now. What the fuck are your options to playing F-Zero from the GameCube right now? If you wanted to do it completely legally, you'd have to go on eBay, get a GameCube, find an upscaler or something to work to make that GameCube playable on your monitor or your TV, and then also get the F-Zero GameCube game. We're talking hundreds upon hundreds of dollars in hoops to jump through just to go ahead and play a game from your childhood or whatever. Or we can talk about if you want to play Pokemon Emerald. Like, what is your only way to play Pokemon Emerald? Well, you'd have to go ahead and get a Game Boy Advance SP on eBay, and a lot of those are in like pretty shoddy condition, to be honest. But even if you find a good condition one, okay, boom. Oh shit, now you can go ahead and say, hey, let me go cop me a Pokemon Emerald. Well, good fucking luck. Pokemon Emerald goes for like $150 on eBay. Okay, so now you're talking about spending $150 for a game that came out in like 2006 or whenever the fuck Pokemon Emerald came out. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just unfeasible, and Nintendo refuses to preserve these games. And it's not only just like, it's not just a thing of like, oh, I feel entitled to be able to play this game. It's like Nintendo literally doesn't make it possible for you to buy that game legit. if Pokemon Emerald was on the Nintendo eShop, you'd have more of an argument there. But even with that being said, a lot of re-releases for games are worse than the original versions. Like, just straight up worse. This happens time and time and time again. Also, what Scoop said is true. A lot of times when they do sell you a remake or a remaster, it is literally just running an emulated version of the game anyways, right? So all you're doing is you're supporting them for being lazy as fuck. You know, what Rai says here is also true. The Mario ports are just categorically worse than the originals. So with the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, the Super Mario 64 version you get on that version of the Switch is like the worst version of Mario 64 you could possibly play. Okay, because first of all, Mario 64 was made to be played a certain way on certain controllers with gated sticks or whatever. Now, granted, they sold you those Nintendo 64 controllers so you could do that, but just the version of the game in and of itself is just worse. First of all, it's the Shindu version, which patches stuff like BLJs and has a lot of other stupid fucking changes that they made to that game. And it runs like shit, it looks like shit, it sounds like shit, it's just shit. It's literally worse than getting the pirated version of the game for yourself, okay? But going back to the original topic at hand here about video game preservation, like, these are games that have, it's almost like, you know, preserving a piece of art, you know, like a painting, right? So in that instance, you know, these are things that have changed a lot of just history in general. And video games are an art form. So like, I don't understand why it's like considered to be so different to like preserve art or to preserve video games, because people will say, oh, like you're not entitled to playing these games, you're not entitled to this, or you're not entitled to that. But it's like, first of all, like, I don't know why we're operating in bad faith as if media, whether it's video games, anime, manga, whatever, TV shows, movies, as if these aren't like the primary way that we consume stuff in like our current day and age, okay? So I think that is a bunch of bullshit off rip. And secondly, when it comes to preservation, if a company wants to, they can just like stop selling you shit, or not make that thing, or not make that game or that movie, that show, that anime, that manga accessible anymore, and it's lost to time. You know, we've seen this happen time and time and time again. Who members on the Xbox 360, there was that Scott Pilgrim game that, due to licensing issues, got pulled from the Microsoft store, and now like you could never play that game again. And so they finally re-released it like, what, over a decade later or some shit, and now you can finally fucking play the game again, right? But we see this happen with anime, manga, again, TV shows, movies. All the shit can just vanish, and it becomes lost media. And that fucking sucks. Like, piracy is like the only way to get unironic, legitimate preservation out of our media. So that is like the number one reason that I think we should be pro-piracy. Another reason why I think we should be pro-piracy is because if you're buying anything digitally, you don't own a fucking thing. The fact that you spend $70 on a PS5 game, and that PS5 game is only like a license that allows you to access that game as long as Sony sees fit, that is the problem. Because you are not owning anything physically. You don't have any rights to that thing. And at any moment, Sony can decide that you no longer have access to that thing. Whether they ban your account and you lose the hundreds or thousands of dollars you spent on games, or whether that game ends up getting pulled. Hello, PT. Granted, that was free, but regardless, there's other paid examples of this. That thing gets pulled, you no longer have access to it anymore. The only way to have access to PT, which at this point has become a real moment in like video game fucking history. You know, like PT is a milestone in video game history. And the only way that PT can ever be preserved is through piracy. So fuck that bullshit. If you're not even gonna, if even giving you money doesn't grant me ownership of the thing, then go to hell. I'm gonna steal it. Like if you do not make your content easily consumable for me, then I will just steal it. Fuck off. I don't owe you shit. You don't owe me shit. I will gladly give you money if you let me. But you got me fucked up 10 ways to hell if you think I'm finna subscribe to Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Paramount, Crunchyroll, Funimation. If you think I'm gonna subscribe to all this shit, fuck off. You're getting robbed, nigga. You're getting robbed. I don't give a shit. Because the thing is, y'all keep increasing prices and giving us worse versions of what we're paying for. Did you know that you pay $25 a month or however much for Netflix on 4K? And if you watch Netflix on your computer, you can't even get it in 4K. The only way to watch Netflix in 4K on a PC is through the Microsoft Edge web browser. If you watch on Google Chrome, you're not getting 4K. And shit, even if you watch on a television set, the streaming quality is so subpar and the bitrate is so low, you're not getting 4K. You feel me? So, like, you're literally getting fucked by paying for that shit. But you know what I can do with piracy? I could watch that shit in 4K HDR on my TV. Get fucked. The hell? Yeah, Blu-ray quality is incredibly, in orders of magnitude, higher quality than something on streaming, right? But of course, with physical media like Blu-rays, I mean, those are being phased out. I'm pretty sure Best Buy is no longer carrying Blu-rays or DVDs, and they're like selling their whole entire fucking stock of Blu-rays or whatever. And, you know, as we move into a hyper digital market, as we move into just being a digital society in general, like that physical media loses a lot of its relevance. But the problem is that there's no way to get that preservation in any other way. Like if it would be one thing if I spent, you know, 10, 20 bucks or whatever on a movie, and then I got like a full like MKV file of like a 4K like 12-bit HDR file for that movie that I just purchased, that would be one thing. But you want me to go on Amazon Prime, spend $9.99 to watch a movie and have it be stored in my Amazon digital library, but if I try to watch it on my fucking computer, I get a fucking like low bitrate 1080p stream of that? Go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not doing that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna steal it. Because if I don't even have the ownership of the thing, that you're gonna get fucked. And that leads into another aspect where the pirates very often get a better experience than a paying customer. The fact that I can give Netflix $25 a month to get 4K HDR streaming, but then when the new Stranger Things comes out, I put that shit up on my Google Chrome browser, and I'm getting a low bitrate 1080p stream of that. But the motherfucker that just waits 5 minutes for somebody to rip the entire thing and upload it to the internet gets that shit in full 4K 12-bit HDR. He gets a better experience, and he didn't have to pay anything. Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah, motherfucker. You know what's gonna happen? You know what's gonna happen? You're getting robbed. I'm stealing. Because pirates get a better product most of the time. And we can bring it back to video games. Let's talk about how video games have horrible DRM practices, especially PC gamers. What up, my PC gamers? How many times does having a DRM make the game run poorly? I forgot what games it were. I think there was like 2 or 3 games that came out last year that used this this thing is borderline a software or a virus, but they use this de novo anti-piracy DRM thing in their games, and it tanks the performance. It was so bad, they had to remove it from the game because it was making the game run bad for people buying the game. Like, you can buy a fucking $70 game, okay? Buy a $70 game and have it run worse than the guy that stole it for free because the modders removed de novo from the goddamn video game. Get the fuck out of here. You deserve to be robbed. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't even steal video games. If I want a video game, I just buy it. It's easier for me to justify that because if I buy a video game, one, it's a tax write-off, and two, I make money off of it regardless if the game fucking sucks anyways because I get to stream that shit. So for me, I don't have any problem pirating something. But to the average consumer, I don't know why you wouldn't be a fucking thief, especially because again, the games that you pirate end up running better a lot of the time. Somebody in the chat actually left a comment about how do I feel about pirating games just because it runs better on an emulator. For example, every fucking Switch game imaginable. Did you know that Breath of the Wild can be played at 4K, 60 FPS? That is a possibility, but because Nintendo made a low-powered console, which I think the Switch is an awesome console in general, but, you know, the games are being held back by being on that console. That's just a fact. Well, if you just fucking pirate it, it's not a fact anymore. And then furthermore, like Nintendo will have games that are 5-6 years old, still $60. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm pretty sure is still $60. Sometimes it'll go on sale for like $40 or something like that. But that is a game that came out on the fucking Wii U. And they're selling it for $60 still. Tears of the Kingdom, they increased the price to $70 for no fucking reason other than the fact that they could. Just because of the fact that they could fucking do that shit, they did that shit. And people still paid for it. Look, it's a great game. I think Tears of the Kingdom is a masterpiece. It was a phenomenal game. I really want to go back and beat it one day. But that doesn't stop the fact that Nintendo, and not only Nintendo, but every single company is constantly anti-consumer. You know, so if you're gonna not respect me, if you're gonna say, fuck me, I'm going to say, fuck you. It just really is that simple. If I can get a better experience by pirating, I can actually own the thing legitly by pirating, I can preserve it by pirating, what the fuck are you offering me for my $70, for my $20, for my $40, for my $50? What are you offering me? You're not offering me jack shit, so you will be getting robbed. I started robbing, like, I'm not gonna say exactly what, but let's just say I started thieving myself a lot more in the past few months, and it's just a better experience. You know what's crazy? Even pirating something at 1080p, and I stream it too. I don't even download that shit. I just stream it at a 1080p quality, and it looks in orders of magnitudes better than it does on Netflix on my big ass TV. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out. You are getting absolutely robbed. And this is gonna lead me to my final point of this video. And this is something that I genuinely believe in. And I'm gonna bring up I bring this up every time we talk about this. But piracy can also lead to a legit paying customer as long as the service you provide is worth it. As long as it's legitimately a good service, it's going to be successful. Let's talk about how the music industry all but eliminated piracy. Because that is how you fucking do it. You know, with Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, whatever the fuck, YouTube Music, whatever you use, any song you could ever want is available for like 10 or 15 bucks a month on whatever platform you want to use it on. There's no dumbass exclusive bullshit. And if there is, it's not usually like super exclusive for a long time or whatever the fuck. Like I think there's been like a Jay-Z album or like a Kanye album that was exclusive on Tidal for like a day or a week or whatever the fuck. But regardless, like that doesn't happen anymore anyways. But they have all but just eliminated music piracy, because why go through the effort of managing a library and downloading shit illegally when you can just look up the song on Spotify or Apple Music and get it immediately within seconds. It's just a better option than piracy, but it's still not foolproof because you still don't own shit. You still don't own shit. But the positive is that if you do buy an album through iTunes or however the fuck you can still buy albums digitally, you still get the MP3s sent to you. So you own the album digitally. You could put them in a hard drive somewhere. You could burn them to a CD. You could put them on a USB drive. You could do whatever the fuck you want with those files. There, you have the files. So you can do that. So at least in the music industry, you still get to enjoy all that shit, And music is just so far ahead of every other industry when it comes to this type of stuff, because they have all but eliminated that. Now, video game piracy has also gone way down recently. And I think that's mainly because of the fact that, they have just a lot of DRM in video games. So sometimes it takes like weeks to crack a brand new game. It's like very hard to crack new games. So like that kind of fucking sucks. But with like movies and TV shows, like I'm sorry, you guys are nowhere near close enough to solving this issue. Your shit will continue to be robbed until the end of fucking time. Because the fact of the matter is, a big reason why the music industry was able to do this is because realistically, there's only like 3 or 4 major music groups. These music groups or these music labels or whatever pretty much own all of the music ever, So they got to get 4 motherfuckers to agree to like upload their shit. But what if UMG decided to make their own streaming service and you could only get UMG music on that streaming service? Or like RCA did the same thing. You know what I mean? And now we have to get different music services for different artists that we want to listen to. We would all start stealing music again because it would just be worse. I'm not paying for multiple music streaming services, so that way I can get a Drake album on this one, a Travis Scott album on this one, a fucking U2 album on that one. Like, I will just start stealing it, And because there's so much business involved with TV shows and movies and all that shit, like they can never consolidate and have a majority of their shit be on a majority of platforms. They're always going to want to put it on their exclusive shit. But what that's going to lead to is like, we're not going to be spending all of this money on these services every single month. We're just going to start robbing you. It really is that simple, And I think that's where we at right now. I genuinely cannot think of a single downside to pirating shit, because any downside that could happen via piracy, I think, is just largely on the creator itself for doing that, right? So like, let's say, for example, a movie or a TV show comes out, but all of its success comes from like piracy or some shit. And now they don't have the funds to make a second one or to do more or whatever the fuck. It's really going to depend on the circumstances of why that happened, right? So for example, let's say a Netflix show comes out and for some reason it gets pirated by everybody, but nobody watches it on actual Netflix. I think that would be on the fault of Netflix for Netflix is like a horrible service. Again, I keep talking about it, $25 a month for like 4K, and you don't even get 4K on the majority of devices that you watch on. So like, if something launches on there, it's Netflix's fault for fumbling that relationship with the subscriber, And regardless, I don't think that would happen anyways. I think a lot of people still have like Netflix subscriptions and shit. And I think we see that shit all the time on like TikTok and Twitter when like a new show or movie goes viral on Netflix and people start watching. They always watch it on Netflix. So I don't even think that's like a real thing that happens. And I don't think there's any evidence to support piracy being the reason why something doesn't make money or the reason why something doesn't get a sequel or get a season 2 or whatever. Unless I'm not remembering something in particular, I don't think that's ever been the case in the history of anything. So yeah, again, I'm doubling down. There is no downsides to pirating. There's only upsides. Fuck these companies, fuck these corporations, fuck these license holders. If you think you can just keep fucking us over, well, bend over, daddy, because you're gonna start to get fucked. Does watching shows or movies on illegal websites count as piracy? Bro, yes. Yes. Absolutely it does. You're not paying for it and you're still watching it, you know. But yeah, anyways, that is my video on piracy being poggers actually. So shout out to piracy. Sail the 7 seas, except I would never. You know, everything I said in this video was absolutely satirical in nature. And this was actually a comedy bit for my upcoming comedy special in which I would not give a fuck if you pirated. Okay, thank you for watching. Peace out. I'll catch you in my next video.